You know, when I see Trump renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, I see a precedent, not just a president. And I see rulers in Britain laughing or thinking it's a bit pugnacious, it's a bit riffraff, populist of him, but that's not taking this move seriously. There are precedents. The Roman Empire did this, Judea to Palestine. But more importantly, the Mediterranean Sea became that one, Mare Nostrum, our sea. And Greenland, they're laughing at this too, or calling it irresponsible, or all of that, but what he's doing is proclaiming that the North Atlantic is America's sphere of influence, just as the Romans declared the Balkans, when it crossed the Adriatic, were its sphere of influence. This is serious stuff. And I have a warning to Britain. My name's Benjamin. A warning from ancient Greece. Because the British Isles, this collection of nations and islands, this archipelago of mist, politically and culturally, aesthetically, in relation to America, it's very much, or at least there are some similarities between it and its relation, or Greek, with the Roman Republic. And how did that story end? Rome conquered and then annexed Greece. So you might want to take it a bit more seriously when Trump and America begin expanding, changing the name of bodies of water that extend its territory, and extending into the Arctic just above you. Now, I'm going to go into this a bit and then explain these similarities, because this warning needs to be heard. In the year 323, Alexander the Great died. He had conquered a vast empire, Persia, extended down into Egypt, crossed into India, up into Afghanistan, leaving kingdoms in his wake. Greek, administrative, at least culturally they were Greek. Ptolemaic, Egypt, became ruled by Greeks for the next 300 years. Cleopatra and the Seleucids, their capitals, Alexandria and Antioch, on the coast of where Turkey and Syria meet, basically. These new Greek-speaking capitals became cultural powerhouses, centers of prestige. Greeks left and went to them, and Greece itself went into decline. Greek knowledge was published, or at least recorded and written, more outside of Greece during this time, the Hellenistic era. And Britain, its great conquerors, Clive of India, Nelson, the fellow who conquered Quebec. These people are centuries ago now. We're talking almost 300 years. And that matters because it's about the same amount of time that passed between Alexander the Great and the fall of Egypt to the Romans, which was a Greek kingdom, basically. During this time, Athens became dependent upon foreign troops, and the various city-states, they became dependent on an economic model that's, in some cases, a bit similar to how Thatcher and Tony Blair were dependent upon bringing foreign ethnic groups. Foreign ethnic groups were brought into Greece to fulfill its demand and supply economy, and it became dependent upon immigration to uphold itself, which made it weak in the face of a rising Roman Republic. And Britain's rulers should pay attention to this, because they're making a very similar mistake. You have this elite oligarchic class that's progressive socially liberal, whereas America, which is more like Rome, is going the other direction and removing those elements of luxury beliefs from its society at the exact moment when Britain is getting a bit crazy over these nonsense kind of social justice beliefs that don't, in the game of political power and geopolitics, help your interests. America is now putting its interests first, and Britain and Ireland need to pay attention to this now. This is a warning. So what happened? We're talking about four main powers here in Greece. You have Macedon, which under Alexander the Great basically conquered everything. And after him it had a line of almost like despotic kings, which kept trying to regather that empire and prestige and expand. They were ambitious. In the south, however, you had a series of coalitions, city-states. One of these which arose was the Achaean League in the south of Greece. Corinth, Sparta, these areas. And they were more interested in bickering amongst themselves sometimes and investing in trade that brought foreigners in than establishing their own independence. To the northwest, you had two groups. You had Epirus, a Greek kingdom that emerged on the Adriatic coast, and you had Illyria, another group, probably what became Albanians, but we're not sure. In any case, it's where Albania is today. And Illyria began to fall under Roman influence. But let's go back first. There were a series of wars with Rome, because Rome liked to fight, right? A bit like America. Whereas the Greeks were talking amongst themselves, trying to resolve their disputes with Macedon, much like the Celtic countries are trying to resolve their differences with England. In the Pyrrhic War from 280 to 275 BCE, Pyrrhus of Epirus tried to keep the Greek colonies in southern Italy from falling under Roman control. He failed, and he won a few victories, but this loss weakened Greece's position and elevated Rome's position. Then Rome was expanding and it came into confrontation with Carthage. Okay? Macedon sided with Carthage against Rome, and it was initially beneficial, and anyone at the time would have done so, but long term, it was a mistake. It was a bit like, dare I say, Europeans siding with Islamicist terrorists against American interests, when Americans are like, well, wait a minute, I thought we were friends. Are you stabbing me in the back? Or are we just going to forget this? You know, Ireland, you're siding with people who are clearly against America's interests. And that's dangerous, because the way in which Rome got into the Balkans was through these two kingdoms, mainly, not all of them, Epirus and Illyria, getting troops stationed there. Because, well, if you're going to side with our enemies, we might as well just conquer you. And then there was another war, the Second Macedonian War. In the year 200, Rome uses this divide between the Achaean League, these coalitions of city-states, and Macedon, who they resent, to declare the freedom of Greece. It says, no, we'll protect you from Macedon. Kind of like if America said to Ireland, Wales, Cornwall, Scotland, we'll protect you from England. Right? You can have your independence if you give us a bit of troops here. Like, let us station our boats. They wanted marine access because Macedon and Athens in these areas, they had a strong navy. But after this, Rome is the ascendant navy, much like America has the navy today, and Britain has not been the naval power for a considerable time. Those two wars were fought by Philip V of Macedon, and after his death, his son, Perseus, is ambitious. his father, Perseus, had taken Illyria briefly, but Illyria was lost. It was more of like a vassal state. However, in this third war, everything goes wrong for Perseus and Macedon. For Illyria especially, but also Macedonia in this war. But it might be a good time to mention Scotland, Wales, and Ireland in their politics, which, at least ideologically, I'm not talking about independence, that's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned in this discussion. But if you're going at it from points of views that are clearly not in America's interest in any way whatsoever, in fact, siding with its enemies at times, what happened to Illyria, which is present-day Albania, is most of its population was enslaved by Rome. When it realized it might as well just station troops directly and ignore the native population if they're going to have different values to Rome. Okay? That's what happened in the Third Macedonian War. And Macedon, the kingdom, was split into 4 administered republics. Like, we'll give you your independence, sort of, but not really. Think of the 4 nations of the UK, the 4 recognized nations: England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland. America could one day in the future say, well, we'll administer you as 4 republics and let you be independent, but not really. However, the Greeks revolted again in the Fourth Macedonian War. However, these Macedonian Greeks rose up again to try and assert some type of independence. And this was an excuse. The excuse Rome had possibly been leading to, though they never really intended to conquer Greece outright. They respected their culture, much as America respects the culture of these islands, very much so. But if you're going to go against America's interests, what use are you to America? Somebody has to deal with actual geopolitical power, which I'll get to in a minute. Britain doesn't do that today. It's more like playing pleasantries and courtiers. In 150 BCE, Rome annexes Macedonia, leaving the Achaean League, which a couple years later, they rise up in revolt, almost as if to say, please spank us. Rome basically had all of Greece by 146 BCE, and this should really be a warning to the British Isles at this moment in time, with its leader, well, Britain's leader, not Ireland's, Sir Keir Starmer, quite hostile to Trump at the moment. I get that you might disagree with the fellow, but that's not wise if you understand how Greece was conquered by Rome. You might want to play it a bit cool and understand that you need to show how you're benefiting the United States if you want a friendship with America. What I mentioned earlier, when I look around, British MPs, the administrators of this isle, and in Ireland as well, they just come across to Americans more and more as effeminate, flattering courtiers that are almost more of an annoyance to America as independent state than a friendship. And if America expands, taking Greenland, potentially Canada, I don't think Quebec, which is French-speaking, should ever be a part of the United States. I just want to point that out. But I see the MPs in British Parliament acting like public schoolboys competing for prestige by using socially progressive values to flaunt credentials and one-up each other. America's not going to respect that. You need to show that you have a bit of backbone in order to maintain a friendship with us. Now, I'm an American citizen, but I'm also a British subject, and I love Wales, and I'm just saying these things as a warning. Whose side are you on? Because we have said in America for a very long time that we're friends with you. And yet, it's almost like you're siding with our enemies on a lot of issues. And that shift from admiration of these islands to questioning your loyalty as a friend, that is the shift. America and Rome moving from admiration of British Isles culture and Greek culture, respect for it, friendship, using it to create a better, refined art and public speaking, moving from that to questioning your motives. Are you on our side or are you on someone else's side? Because we are the power now, not the British Empire. America is the one who has to be responsible for maintaining order at the moment. Because someone has to. There's always going to be a hierarchy, and you have to be able to use force in order to keep up friendships. Otherwise, it just devolves into anarchy. And I don't think Britain anymore takes geopolitics seriously. It's more like a sporting event for them that, like I said, it's a bunch of public school boys that want to one-up each other that Americans are not going to take seriously. It looks like flattering court jesters, Britain, if you don't change. Britain, Ireland, all of these islands, you are very much like the Greek city-states, and you're making some of the same mistakes. I don't want you to be conquered by America in a century and a half or so. But if things progress on this same line, you're very much going down that road where that's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Rome didn't set out to conquer Greece. It just kind of happened because the kings of Macedon weren't taking geopolitics seriously, and the Greek city-states were full of courtly, flattering gentlemen who didn't understand how basic power struggles work. I know that is not like most of my videos. However, I felt it to be apt and important at this point in history. Britain is heading down a road in which it's becoming more feeble, and America towards some kind of patriotic restoration, just as the Roman Republic did. And let that be a warning. We don't have to go down that road. Rome did not intend to conquer Greece. It just kind of happened, really. If you liked that, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a super like, buy me a coffee, or join me on Patreon to help the channel. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching.